The TARDIS landed with a jolt, which almost threw the young astronaut Stephen Taylor off balance. But the Doctor did not seem to notice as he studied the parameters of the time-place orientation printout on the central control panel of the time machine. "Earth again," he observed, and waited for the digits of the time print to stop as they clicked by. But they didn't, at least not the last two. The first settled at 1 and the second at 5, but the last two fluctuated between 0 and 9 indiscriminately. "In the 1500s. We'll know exactly when in a moment," he added hopefully, but it was not to be. The numbers kept flickering by on the screen. "No one should allow a kid like me to grow up in a crate like this," Stephen joked, but his humour was lost on the Doctor. "Perhaps we should ask Mission Control for permission to return for an overhaul?" "I am Mission Control," the Doctor replied sourly, and ordered Stephen to open the door as he switched off the main power drives, leaving the interior lighting on the auxiliaries. Stephen obeyed, and the stench of putrefaction which hit him in the face almost made him ill on the spot. Under a fierce sun in the clear blue sky, the TARDIS stood in the middle of mounds of decomposing rubbish. There was also a wooden fence a little higher than the TARDIS, which entirely surrounded them and had a door in it. "Ah, perfect!" the Doctor observed as he looked out. He wore his cloak over his clothes, and his astrakhan hat was on his head. In one hand he held his silver-topped cane, in the other a handkerchief to his nose. "Heh! Putrescence! Just what we need," he added as someone on the other side of the fence threw several rotting cabbages over it. "Ha! Couldn't be better!" "Your logic escapes me, Doctor," Stephen replied. "My dear boy," the Doctor said indulgently, "people throw their rubbish over the fence rather than bring it in, which means that the TARDIS will remain unobserved here whilst we," he gestured airily, "explore." "What's to explore?" "The other side of the fence, since the aromas on this side of it give me a clue as to where we might be." The Doctor momentarily lifted a corner of the handkerchief. "Garlic! Ha! Definitely garlic," he said, and then told Stephen to fetch a cloak to wear so that they could begin their exploration. With the TARDIS locked behind them, the Doctor picked his way delicately through the refuse towards the door. "We'll need to use the EDF system when we return," he said, just before they reached it. "What's that?" Stephen asked. "The external decontamination function," the Doctor replied. "Oh, a sort of spatial car wash," Stephen joked. The Doctor glared at him, opened the door cautiously, and peered out. The fence was on a square of land on one side of the unpaved pitted street, rutted by carriage wheels. The refuse that had not been thrown over the fence lay there and was being picked at by emaciated dogs. The buildings on both sides were mostly adjoining, between 1 and 2 stories high, with overhanging eaves and slated or thatched roofs. The walls were braced with wooden beams, and from most of the small open windows with slatted shutters came pungent odours of cooking. The people on the street, and they were many, stood or walked under the eaves or in the middle of it. There were hawkers pushing carts laden with meats, vegetables, fish and crustaceous seafoods of every kind. There was a knife sharpener with his grinding wheel, a carpenter with his mobile lathe, and the remainder of his tools in a leather haversack on his back. There were also vendors with their trays slung by straps from their necks, filled with every variety of cheaply made knick-knack. And all of them were selling their wares simultaneously at the top of their voices. They wore breeches, billowing shirts and clogs. Most of them had shoulder-length hair, frequently gathered in a bow at the back. Several had gaudy, gypsy-like bandanas on their heads, and a few wore curled, wide-brimmed flat hats.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it. at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.